1:33 a.m. The Red Sea, 140 kilometers northwest of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. USS Gravely has been at this station for 22 days. She is one of 4 U.S. destroyers rotating through the Red Sea as part of Operation Prosperity Guardian, the multinational force established to protect commercial shipping from Houthi anti-ship missile and drone strikes. In 22 days, her crew has fired SM-2, SM-6, and CIWS engagements on 17 separate nights. They have intercepted 41 Houthi projectiles. They are good at this. They are also tired, and their VLS cells are at 61% of standard loadout pending a resupply rendezvous scheduled for 72 hours from now. The Houthi intelligence network, fed by Iranian IRGC advisors with access to commercial satellite imagery and open-source shipping data, knows about the resupply schedule. They have been watching USS Gravely's engagement rate for 22 days. They have been counting the firings. The 61% figure is an estimate, but it is a close one. More importantly, they know that the resupply is 72 hours away. And they know that tonight, at 1:33 a.m., 22 commercial vessels are transiting the Red Sea simultaneously, the largest single-night convoy since Operation Prosperity Guardian began. Ships that had been holding in Djibouti and Aden, waiting for a weather window that opened 6 hours ago. 22 vessels. 1 destroyer with a depleted VLS. 72 hours from resupply. The Houthi operational staff called this the saturation window. They had been planning for it for 6 weeks. At 1:33 a.m., launch signatures appear across 4 separate sites in western Yemen. The Hudaydah coastal zone, the highlands above Sana'a, the Taiz Plateau, and the Red Sea coastal road south of Al-Hudaydah. The E-2D Hawkeye on patrol registered the signatures at 1:33 a.m. and transmitted the contact report to USS Gravely 11 seconds later. The inventory: 31 Houthi Shahed 136 and locally produced Qasef-2K loitering munitions in 4 simultaneous waves. 14 Houthi anti-ship cruise missiles, a combination of Iranian-supplied Quds-3 sea skimmers and domestically modified C-802 variants. 7 ballistic missiles, Birkin-2, H medium-range systems with maneuvering re-entry vehicles based on Iranian Qiyam-1 technology. And 11 autonomous surface vessels, unmanned explosive-laden boats, their navigation systems programmed for GPS waypoint guidance toward the densest cluster of commercial vessel AIS positions. 63 weapons and autonomous systems, against 1 destroyer and 22 unarmed commercial vessels spread across 180 kilometers of sea lane. This was not the standard Houthi harassment operation. This was a coordinated saturation event designed around a specific vulnerability window. And it had a second element that the E-2D's initial contact report had not yet captured. 6 IRGC fast attack craft had left Eritrean territorial waters at 1:19 a.m., 14 minutes before the Houthi launch, and were currently running northeast at 34 knots under emissions control. Iranian assets in international waters approaching the Red Sea from the south. Their mission: reach the outer perimeter of the commercial convoy before USS Gravely could respond to both the air threat and the surface threat simultaneously. The IRGC had not fired. They were not yet in range of any defined engagement threshold. They were in international waters. They were moving fast in a direction that had one logical destination. The watch officer aboard USS Gravely had all of this on her display at 1:34 a.m. She had 1 minute and 40 seconds of transit time before the first Houthi wave reached SM-2 engagement range. She transmitted the flash alert to CENTCOM, to CTF-153 Command, and to every commercial vessel in the convoy on bridge-to-bridge Channel 16 simultaneously. The commercial vessel alert was simple: execute evasion protocol. Charlie, disperse now, maintain maximum speed. Protocol Charlie was not improvised. It had been distributed to every commercial vessel transiting the Red Sea by the Maritime Security Communications Center in Bahrain 3 weeks earlier. A set of instructions for convoy evasion maneuvers in the event of a coordinated anti-ship attack. It told ships to increase separation, change course to unpredictable headings, and increase speed. It did not guarantee survival. It reduced the probability of multiple hits by breaking the predictable convoy geometry that anti-ship missile seekers use to assign targets. 19 of the 22 vessels complied within 4 minutes. 3 did not respond on Channel 16. One was a Chinese-flagged bulk carrier whose bridge watch officer did not speak English. One was a Liberian-flagged tanker whose Channel 16 radio had been reported faulty in its last port call. And one did not respond for reasons that were not immediately apparent. USS Gravely was already engaging. The 7 Birkin 2H ballistic missiles were the first priority. Their ballistic trajectories placed them in the SM-6 engagement envelope at 1:37 a.m. 5 intercepted in mid-course at altitude. 2 entered terminal phase and executed maneuvering profiles. CAM-1 derived guidance, lateral shift in terminal phase to defeat fire control solutions. Both were acquired by USS Gravely's terminal engagement mode. First intercept at 1:38 a.m. Second at 1:38 a.m. Both neutralized. 7 of 7 ballistic rounds stopped. The 14 anti-ship cruise missiles were a different geometry. Sea skimmers at 12 meters altitude approaching from 4 different bearings. The Houthi had spread their launch sites deliberately to create a multi-azimuth problem that a single ship could not solve with standard point defense architecture. USS Gravely's Aegis system had all 14 tracks at 1:36 a.m. She began SM-2 engagements at maximum range, working the closest threat axis first. 8 of 14 intercepted at 60 to 90 kilometer range. 6 continued. This was where the VLS depletion mattered. 6 inbound cruise missiles, 6 separate approach vectors, and an interceptor inventory at 61%. USS Gravely assigned her remaining SM-2 capacity to 4 of the 6. Both hit. 2 Quds 3 sea skimmers entered CIWS engagement range. The first reached phalanx CYWS at 1,100 meters. CIWS engaged for 2.2 seconds. The Quds 3 was structurally compromised. It lost guidance and veered 14 degrees off its approach heading. It impacted the water 340 meters off USS Gravely's port bow. No structural damage. The second Quds 3 was engaged by CIWS at 800 meters. The burst was sustained for 2.8 seconds. The missile was not stopped. It was slowed and destabilized. It impacted the destroyer's portside hull above the waterline, approximately 4 meters above the main deck edge. The warhead, a 165-kilogram shaped charge, functioned as designed. The portside damage control station registered the impact at 1:41 a.m. The penetration was 1.4 meters in diameter through the outer hull plating. Internal damage to the berthing compartment behind the impact point. The compartment was unoccupied. It was 1:41 a.m., and the crew on that side were at their battle stations. The fire suppression system in the berthing compartment activated automatically. No fire. 5 sailors at the battle station closest to the impact point sustained concussion injuries from the overpressure wave through the adjacent bulkhead. 2 were assessed as serious, 1 with a fractured rib, 1 with a burst eardrum and disorientation. 3 were minor. All 5 were evacuated from the battle station within 4 minutes. USS Gravely's damage control teams had the hull breach under assessment within 7 minutes. USS Gravely was damaged. She was not non-operational. Her engines were undamaged. Her Aegis system was undamaged. Her remaining VLS capacity was functional. She was listing 1.7 degrees to port from water ingress through the hull breach, which the damage control team was already shoring. The commanding officer made the call at 1:43 a.m. Remain on station, continue engagement, address the hull breach concurrently. This was the closest the Houthi operation came to its objective. A direct hit on a U.S. Navy warship. Crew injured. Hull breach. A result that would appear in every intelligence assessment for the next 6 months. By the metric the Houthi operational staff was using, demonstrating that U.S. naval assets in the Red Sea were not invulnerable. It was a result. By the metric that mattered operationally, suppression of USS Gravely's ability to protect the convoy. It was not. The ship remained operational. The fight was still running. The 31 loitering munitions and the 11 autonomous surface vessels were the simultaneous second problem. MH-60R helicopters from USS Gravely had been airborne since 1:34 a.m., 2 aircraft, each armed with M240 door-mounted machine guns and Hellfire missiles. Their mission was the autonomous surface vessel threat. 11 GPS-guided explosive boats approaching the commercial convoy from the south. Their navigation systems locked to the last known convoy positions before Protocol Charlie dispersal. The dispersal had broken the convoy geometry. The boats' programmed waypoints were now heading toward empty water where ships used to be. But 7 of 11 had updated their waypoints by acquiring active AIS signals from vessels that had not yet dispersed or had dispersed too slowly. The MH-60R engaged the first 3 autonomous surface vessels at 1:39 a.m. with Hellfire. Direct hits at 3.2 and 4.1 kilometers. 2 more were engaged with door gun fire at closer range. By 1:44 a.m., 5 of 11 autonomous surface vessels had been neutralized. 4 more were heading for empty water. 2 were still tracking toward AIS signals. The Chinese-flagged bulk carrier that had not responded to Protocol Charlie was still broadcasting its AIS on its original heading at standard convoy speed. 1 autonomous surface vessel had locked onto it. The MH-60R crew saw the track at 1:43 a.m. and made the geometry. 4 kilometers to the vessel, 2 kilometers to the boat closing at 22 knots. They had 80 seconds. The Hellfire missed. The boat's low radar cross-section at wave height produced an intermittent targeting return, and the first shot went long. The door gun engaged at 600 meters. The boat was stopped 180 meters from the bulk carrier's hull. It detonated from the gun hits. The detonation sent fragmentation across the water surface. Fragments reached the bulk carrier's hull below the main deck, scoring on the paint. No structural damage, no injuries aboard. 180 meters. At 1:48 a.m., 2 additional U.S. assets arrived in the engagement picture. USS Mason, the 2nd Arleigh Burke on Prosperity Guardian rotation, 210 kilometers north, had been transiting south at flank speed since the flash alert at 1:34 a.m. She was still outside SM-2 engagement range for most of the convoy. But her SM-6 in extended anti-air mode could reach the final wave of Shahed loitering munitions now entering the northern end of the convoy's dispersal area. 8 SM-6 from USS Mason engaged the 3rd Houthi drone wave at 1:49 a.m. 6 neutralized. 2 continued south. An MQ-9 Reaper on an ISR orbit over the Red Sea, retasked by CENTCOM at 1:36 a.m., acquired the 6 IRGC fast attack craft at 1:44 a.m. They were now 67 kilometers south of the southernmost commercial vessel in the convoy and still closing. They had not fired. They had not turned. At 1:47 a.m., one of the 6 fast attack craft activated its radar, a targeting radar consistent with engaging surface vessels. It emitted for 11 seconds. A harm round from a F/A-18F that had launched from the deck of USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, 340 kilometers to the west at 1:38 a.m., arrived at 1:49 a.m. The fast attack craft with the active radar lost its mast and antenna array. It slowed and began circling. The other 5 continued northeast for 4 more minutes. At 1:53 a.m., all 5 turned south. They did not communicate on any monitored frequency. They simply turned. USS Mason's weapons batteries remained locked on all 5 until they were 40 kilometers south of the convoy's southernmost vessel and continuing to withdraw. The Houthi 4th drone wave, 16 munitions, arrived at 1:52 a.m. USS Gravely's CIWS was the only layer still available. Her SM-2 inventory was fully expended. 14 of 16 engaged by phalanx. CIWS ammunition at 34%. 13 neutralized. One drone impacted the water 60 meters off the starboard bow, close enough to spray the forward gun mount with salt water. No damage. The 14th and 16th drones were engaged by USS Mason's SM-6 as they entered her coverage. Both neutralized. At 1:58 a.m., CENTCOM activated the kinetic response package. Operation Red Meridian. 4 F/A 18F and 6 F-35C sorties from USS Dwight D. Eisenhower reached the Yemeni coast at 2:04 a.m. Their targets: the 4 Houthi launch sites identified by the E-2D during the engagement, the Hudaida Coastal Battery, the Sana'a Highlands Complex, the Taiz Plateau launcher positions, and the Coastal Road Mobile Battery south of Al-Hudaida. All 4 sites had been cataloged in the CENTCOM target database for 11 months. Each had been updated by real-time ISR during the engagement. 47 JASSMER and GBU-31 JDAM packages reached the 4 sites between 2:06 and 2:21 a.m. The Hudaida Coastal Battery, 6 Houthi Quds, 3 launcher vehicles, 3 remaining after the salvo, received paired JDAM strikes on each vehicle. The Sana'a Highlands Complex, the primary Birkin 2H assembly and launch facility, received 4 JASSMER on hardened storage structures and 2 on the mobile erector launcher vehicles still in the compound. The Taiz Plateau site, 3 JASSMER, 2 launcher vehicles and the associated fuel and warhead storage. The Coastal Road Mobile Battery, 2 vehicles acquired by F-35 CEOTS at 2:03 a.m., 1 already moving toward a hardened position. The moving vehicle was 800 meters from the hardened entrance when the F-35C sensor-to-shooter cycle completed. The JDAM arrived 40 seconds before the vehicle reached the entrance. The autonomous surface vessel facility at the Ras Isa Port Complex, where 11 of the boats had been prepared and launched, received Tomahawk packages from USS Mason at 2:11 a.m. 3 precision impacts on the boat preparation hangar and the associated fuel and electronics assembly areas. By 2:29 a.m., all 4 Houthi launch sites were assessed as non-operational or severely degraded. The autonomous surface vessel preparation facility was non-operational. At 2:33 a.m., USS Gravely's damage control team reported the hull breach shored and stabilized. Water ingress had been stopped. The list had been corrected to 0.3 degrees. The ship was assessed as capable of sustained operations at reduced speed. Her maximum speed was reduced from 30 knots to 22 knots until the breach could be properly repaired at a port facility. Her Aegis system, VLS launcher remaining capacity, and all weapons systems were functional. 2 of the 5 injured sailors had been transferred to a medical helicopter from USS Mason at 2:19 a.m. for evacuation to Bahrain. 3 remained aboard, treated by the ship's medical officer, assessed as returning to duty within 48 hours. The commanding officer of USS Gravely made 1 entry in the ship's log at 2:41 a.m. Hull breach stabilized. Ship combat effective. Continuing station. She did not elaborate. The log entry was sufficient. At 2:43 a.m., USS Mason came alongside USS Gravely at 400 meters, close enough for a visual assessment of the hull damage, far enough to maintain independent maneuvering. The Mason's commanding officer made his assessment over encrypted voice. The breach was above the waterline. The shoring appeared solid. The list was negligible. He recommended continued station. He did not recommend withdrawal. The 2 destroyers resumed their patrol tracks. The Red Sea between them was clear of active threats for the first time since 1:33 a.m. They had been at this station for varying periods, Gravely for 22 days, Mason for 16. Together that evening, they had stopped 59 of 63 weapons aimed at them and at the ships they were there to protect. The resupply was still 72 hours away. Both ships were going to need it. The 22 commercial vessels. 21 completed their transits through the Red Sea and the Bab-el-Mandeb Strait over the following 9 hours without further incident. The 22nd, The Liberian flag tanker that had not responded to Protocol Charlie and whose Channel 16 had been reported faulty, was found at 3:14 a.m. to have been impacted by a Houthi Qasif 2K loitering munition that had been acquired by its AIS signal during the Protocol Charlie dispersal window. The impact was on the vessel's stern superstructure, crew quarters. 3 of the tanker's 22 crew members had been in the crew mess at the time of impact. 2 sustained injuries requiring hospitalization. 1 was not injured. The tanker's engines and cargo tanks were undamaged. She completed her transit under tow from a Dutch-flagged salvage vessel that was pre-positioned in Djibouti as part of Operation Prosperity Guardian's commercial vessel support arrangement. From the first Houthi launch signature at 1:33 a.m. to the last U.S. precision munition impact at 2:29 a.m., 56 minutes, Houthi weapons launched. 63 total, 31 drones, 14 anti-ship cruise missiles, 7 ballistic missiles, 11 autonomous surface vessels. Intercepted or neutralized, 59 of 63. 4 reached targets. 1 Quds. 3 impacted USS Gravely. 1 autonomous surface vessel detonated 180 meters from a commercial vessel. 1 Qasif 2K impacted a commercial tanker. 1 drone impacted water 60 meters from USS Gravely. Total intercept rate, 93.7%. IRGC fast attack craft, 6. Withdrew without engaging after radar emission response. No direct engagement. USS Gravely. Combat effective throughout. Hull breach stabilized. Speed reduced. 5 crew injuries, 2 serious, 3 minor. Commercial vessels. 21 transited without structural damage. 1 tanker impacted by loitering munition. 2 crew injuries. Vessel cargo undamaged. Transit completed under tow. Houthi launch infrastructure neutralized. All 4 identified sites assessed non-operational or severely degraded. Autonomous surface vessel preparation facility, non-operational. Cost of U.S. munitions expended in Operation Red Meridian, $340 million. Assessed replacement cost of Houthi and IRGC assets engaged, $890 million in launch infrastructure and weapons inventory. The Houthi operation had been designed around 1 correct intelligence assessment. USS Gravely's VLS was at 61%, and a resupply was 72 hours away. The assessment was accurate. The saturation volume was calculated to exhaust the remaining interceptor capacity. The calculation worked. USS Gravely's SM-2 inventory was expended by the engagement's midpoint. The Quds 3 that hit the ship had gotten through because the SM-2 was gone. What the calculation had not included: the CIWS barrier that took the hit instead of letting the missile pass. The 2 MH-60R helicopters that stopped 10 autonomous surface vessels before they reached commercial ships. The USS Mason at flank speed from 210 kilometers. The FA-18F that pre-positioned before the engagement and arrived with a harm when the IRGC fast attack craft activated their radar. The resupply was still 72 hours away. USS Gravely's VLS was now at 11%. But her hull was shored. Her engines were running. Her Aegis system was tracking the Red Sea. She was still on station. The Houthi saturation window had closed. The result it produced: 1 hull breach, 5 crew injuries, 1 commercial vessel with a stern impact, was the best result a Houthi operation had ever produced against a U.S. Navy warship. It was also the last result they would produce for the foreseeable future, because the 4 launch sites that had made it possible were no longer operational. The resupply ship was 72 hours away. USS Gravely was going to need it.